Good evening. Tonight we examine a growing storm that has placed the United Kingdom's health system, its pharmaceutical industry, and millions of patients on a collision course. It is a crisis of affordability, investment, and ultimately survival. At the heart of it lies one simple question: how much should life-saving medicines cost? The National Health Service has long been hailed as one of Britain's proudest achievements, ensuring that every citizen receives health care regardless of income. But the very system designed to protect patients is now accused of driving away pharmaceutical investment, discouraging innovation, and delaying the arrival of new treatments. In this in-depth investigation, we will take you inside hospitals, research laboratories, boardrooms, and Parliament itself to uncover the truth behind the UK's drug pricing policies and to ask, is the price of affordable healthcare too high for the future of British medicine? Every day, thousands walk through the doors of NHS hospitals across the country. From routine checkups to emergency care, the NHS remains a lifeline. Yet behind the reassuring blue logo lies an uncomfortable reality. The way the NHS negotiates medicine prices is unlike any other system in the world. Pharmaceutical companies that sell treatments to the NHS are compelled to offer enormous discounts. A cancer drug costing $10,000 a month in the United States might be sold for less than half in Britain. For patients, this seems like a triumph. Medicines that would bankrupt families in America are accessible for only a modest prescription charge in the UK. But for the companies producing those drugs, the story is different. Many now argue that Britain's approach has turned from fair negotiation into financial suffocation. Pharmaceutical lobby groups warn that Britain's strict price controls are forcing them to sell medicines at a loss. In recent years, the UK government introduced what is known as the Voluntary Scheme for Branded Medicines Pricing and Access. Under this system, companies must return a significant portion of their sales revenue back to the government, up to 26% in some cases. This levy, they argue, makes Britain one of the least attractive markets in Europe for launching new drugs. Charts and figures presented by industry executives reveal a stark reality. While other countries are seeing growth in pharmaceutical investment, the UK's share is shrinking at an alarming pace. The consequence? Fewer medicines available, fewer trials conducted, and fewer breakthroughs reaching British patients. In the quiet halls of Britain's once thriving pharmaceutical laboratories, the future of medicine hangs in suspense. Here, under sterile lights and among the hum of high-powered equipment, scientists dedicate their lives to the pursuit of discovery. They are men and women who, for decades, have worked with the belief that Britain could lead the world in medical innovation. From life-saving cancer therapies to revolutionary treatments for Alzheimer's disease, many of the most significant breakthroughs have been nurtured in laboratories such as these. But the climate is changing. In 2024, Merck, one of the largest and most influential pharmaceutical companies on the planet, announced the closure of a billion-pound research hub in London. The facility, once celebrated as a symbol of Britain's scientific prowess, is now another casualty of what critics call an increasingly hostile environment for innovation. With its closure came the loss of more than 100 highly skilled scientific jobs. Merck is not alone. Industry giants across the globe are voicing similar concerns. That Britain's pricing system makes it financially impossible to sustain long-term research here. The tragedy is not merely economic. Every shuttered laboratory represents not only lost jobs but lost opportunities. Opportunities for new cures, for faster treatments, for lives saved. As international competitors, Germany, Switzerland, Ireland, roll out the red carpet for pharmaceutical investment, Britain risks losing its place at the very forefront of global science. For the scientists still working within these walls, there is a profound sense of unease. Will their work ever reach the patients who need it most? Or will the breakthroughs they fight for each day be forced to find homes elsewhere, leaving British patients behind? While scientists battle in the laboratories, corporate executives fight a different war. In sleek London boardrooms with glass walls and polished marble floors. Here the mood is less clinical and more combative. Charts are projected onto screens showing steep declines in profitability. Men and women in tailored suits point to the numbers and argue that Britain's policies are punishing innovation. Their case is simple. The research and development of a single new medicine can cost billions of pounds and take over a decade to complete. Only a fraction of experimental drugs ever make it to market. For those that do, companies rely on global sales to recover the colossal costs. But in the UK, they say, the government's levy system is eroding any chance of sustainability. Executives speak of Britain not as an opportunity, but as a warning, an example of what happens when governments push too far in pursuit of affordability. Some even threaten to withdraw new medicines entirely, suggesting British patients will be forced to wait years while their European neighbors move ahead. But the critics are not silent. Campaigners argue that these same executives earn millions in bonuses and preside over corporations that regularly post vast global profits. To them, the threats are little more than blackmail, an attempt to hold patients hostage in order to secure higher prices. It is a battle of perception as much as policy. Are these men and women guardians of innovation, fighting to keep the system alive, or are they profiteers, unwilling to accept that healthcare must first and foremost serve the people? In the sterile corridors of NHS hospitals, the debate takes on a human face. Here sits Margaret, 74 years old, battling advanced cancer. For her, the difference between receiving a cutting-edge treatment today and waiting another 3 years is not theoretical. It is life itself. Her doctor knows of a drug available in France and Germany, already approved and in use but not yet accessible on the NHS. The wait could be fatal. In another ward, a child named Daniel suffers from a rare genetic disorder. Across the Atlantic, a breakthrough therapy is offering hope to families like his. But in Britain, that therapy is tied up in negotiations, its cost considered too high, its benefit not yet value for money. His parents watch helplessly as time slips away. Studies show that, on average, new treatments reach patients in Germany, Switzerland, and even Italy 2 to 3 years earlier than in the United Kingdom. For conditions where every month counts, those delays can be devastating. It is easy to become lost in the complexity of numbers and policies. But within these walls, the consequences are devastatingly clear. Behind each statistic is a story, behind each negotiation, a name, behind every policy, a life waiting in the balance. For patients like Margaret and Daniel, the debate over drug pricing is not an abstract question. It is the difference between hope and despair, between a tomorrow and none at all. At local pharmacies, the crisis becomes tangible. Behind the counters, shelves that once held life-saving treatments now display empty spaces. Digital screens flash the words, "Medicine unavailable." Pharmacists apologize with sympathetic eyes, but sympathy does not ease pain, nor does it treat illness. Patients are being switched to older drugs, cheaper, less effective, often carrying heavier side effects. For some, this means surviving, but not living. For others, it means their treatment simply stalls until supplies return, if they ever do. Doctors are sounding the alarm. They warn that Britain risks sliding backwards, forced to rely on outdated therapies while the rest of the world pushes ahead into a new age of medicine. The NHS, once the pride of the nation, now finds itself rationing the very drugs that define modern healthcare. On a grey afternoon in London, a billion-pound building stands silent. Its glass walls, once glowing with ambition, now reflect nothing but rain and resignation. This was to be the crown jewel of Merck's investment in British science, a research hub designed to pioneer treatments that could transform lives. Today, it is closed. Inside, the laboratories are empty. Machines that once whirred with discovery sit idle, their screens dark. Researchers who dreamed of changing the future now carry cardboard boxes of personal belongings to waiting cars. Some depart in silence, others in tears. For many, this was not just a workplace but a mission. This closure is more than a financial decision. It symbolizes a deeper problem, a Britain no longer seen as fertile ground for medical innovation. For decades, the country has been a magnet for scientists, a place where bold ideas were not only welcomed, but nurtured. From the discovery of penicillin to breakthroughs in genetics, Britain has shaped the course of medicine. But the tide is turning. Other countries are rising, offering better incentives, more flexible pricing models, and clearer promises of support. In Germany, new research facilities open their doors. In Switzerland, pharmaceutical investment is booming. Even Ireland, with its smaller economy, is attracting companies away from the United Kingdom. The loss of Merck's hub is not just the loss of one company. It is a warning, a sign that unless policies change, Britain risks surrendering its role as a global leader in science. The cost is measured not only in billions of pounds and hundreds of jobs, but in discoveries not made, treatments never tested, and patients who will never benefit. For those who devoted their lives to the cause, the silence of an abandoned laboratory is deafening. It is the sound of ambition stifled, of opportunity lost, of a nation stepping back from the edge of greatness. To understand Britain's dilemma, we must look beyond its borders. In Germany, the pharmaceutical industry flourishes. A more flexible pricing system allows companies to recover costs while still ensuring patients gain access to the latest treatments. Drugs that take years to arrive in the UK are available in Germany within months. Patients there live longer, healthier lives as a result, while investment flows steadily into German laboratories and universities. Across the Atlantic, the story is entirely different. In the United States, innovation reigns supreme. With virtually no price controls, pharmaceutical companies charge what the market will bear. The result? A torrent of new drugs, developed at speed, often years ahead of Europe. But the price is staggering. Patients face bills in the tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. Families mortgage homes, empty savings, and live under crushing debt in the hope of saving a loved one. And then there is Britain. For decades, the United Kingdom offered a balance: innovation supported by fair pricing, patients protected from financial ruin, and companies motivated to invest. But that balance is slipping. While Germany races ahead and the United States surges with innovation, despite the cost, the UK finds itself caught in the middle. Its system protects patients' wallets but risks denying them the very treatments they need. The dream of affordable healthcare for all remains intact, but the reality is increasingly one of waiting, of watching from the sidelines as others move forward. The question Britain must now ask is simple: can it remain committed to affordability without sacrificing progress? Or must it change, adapt, and risk angering those who see the NHS as untouchable? It is a debate not just of economics, but of values, of identity, of what kind of nation Britain wishes to be. In Westminster, the crisis becomes theatre. Inside the House of Commons, voices rise in heated exchange. On the green benches, members of Parliament trade arguments with passion and persistence. One stands to defend the NHS's pricing policy, declaring that it is the duty of government to protect citizens from exploitation. Another counters that without reform, Britain will slide into irrelevance, leaving patients to suffer delays while the rest of Europe advances. Committees are formed, reports commissioned. Ministers insist that negotiations with the pharmaceutical industry are ongoing. Opposition members accuse the government of dithering, of lacking vision, of failing to act while patients pay the price. The Prime Minister is asked directly, why is Britain losing investment? Why are patients waiting years for drugs already available elsewhere? The answers are careful, measured, but unsatisfying. Promises are made, but the stalemate endures. Behind closed doors, lobbyists meet with policymakers. Pharmaceutical executives argue their case with urgency, warning that unless conditions improve, they will take their business elsewhere. Patient advocacy groups plead for faster access, for flexibility, for compassion. Economists warn of the billions at risk if investment continues to fall. It is a clash not just of policy but of philosophy. Should healthcare be seen as a public service immune to market forces? Or should it embrace compromise, recognizing that without industry, there can be no innovation? In Parliament's grand chambers, the debate rages on. But as the speeches echo and the votes are counted, patients continue to wait. For them, politics is not a performance. It is a lifeline, one that grows thinner with each passing day. Despite the challenges, there is a path forward. Experts propose a range of solutions, innovative models that could bridge the divide between affordability and sustainability. One idea is the outcomes-based payment system, where the NHS pays only for drugs that deliver proven results. If a medicine fails to work, the cost falls not on patients or taxpayers, but on the companies that supply it. Another solution lies in partnerships. By fostering closer collaboration between government, universities, and industry, Britain could create an ecosystem where research thrives without abandoning affordability. Public-private partnerships could fund clinical trials, share risks, and ensure that discoveries remain accessible to all. Some argue for a flexible pricing system. Expensive treatments could be introduced gradually, offered first to those in greatest need while negotiations continue. This would allow patients to benefit sooner without overwhelming the NHS budget. Beyond pricing, there is a broader challenge: how to inspire confidence. Britain must show that it is still a nation where innovation is valued, where science is celebrated, where ambition is rewarded. Only then will companies invest, laboratories expand, and discoveries flourish. The road ahead will not be easy. Every option involves compromise, every solution demands courage. But if Britain is to remain a leader in medicine, it must choose not the path of comfort, but the path of change. And so we return to the studio to reflect on the journey we have taken. We have seen the empty corridors of hospitals, where patients wait for treatments that may never come. We have stood inside abandoned laboratories, once alive with hope, now silent. We have listened to the arguments of executives, the pleas of patients, the speeches of politicians. And through it all, one question has echoed: what is the true cost of affordable medicine? For decades, the National Health Service has been the envy of the world. It represents a promise that in Britain, healthcare is a right, not a privilege. But that promise now carries a heavy burden. In striving to make medicines affordable, the NHS risks pushing away the very innovation that makes modern healthcare possible. The choice before Britain is not simple. To change course could mean higher costs, political backlash, and controversy. To stay the same could mean slower access, fewer discoveries, and lives lost. But history has shown that Britain is capable of boldness. From the creation of the NHS itself to the discovery of treatments that changed the world, this nation has led with vision and courage. The question is whether it can do so again. For Margaret, waiting in her hospital bed, for Daniel, whose parents pray for a cure, for every family that relies on the NHS, the answer cannot come soon enough. The United Kingdom stands at a crossroads. Its decision will shape not only its own future, but the future of healthcare across the world. This is more than policy. This is more than politics. This is life itself. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, please.